Today I would like to do a little bit more hands-on practice to let you guys hopefully think a little bit more instead of listening a lot. The starting motivating example is this. I have a system, second order system, and I try to design PID type of control, lead lag type of control for the system. And then I would like you to draw the root locus and then think about if the design is like this. This is the added pole from the lead lag, from the lag compensator. Then this is the added 0. This is -3, -6. I would like you to think about how the root locus will look like and some of the details in the way that we have been using to solve the problem. So how will the root locus look like? We can do the usual thing. We have 3, so the overall system with these two, the overall feedback loop, the loop transfer function, if you want to be completely accurate to get 100% grade for a problem like this in the final, you need to write down this and then say the overall, the root locus is about GS and then CS together. You need to be clear about what you're plotting. And then you say there are 3 poles for this overall system loop transfer function. We can call it G tilde. So 3 poles, 2 finite zeros. There will be an infinite zero at some point in the infinity. And the shape will look like the centroid is going to be summation. It's a geometric center of these 3. So you can calculate the centroid is -3, -6, and then -p minus -z1, -z2, divided by relative degree of denominator, the number of poles, minus the number of zeros. -3, -6, this is close to 0, and then minus these z1 and z2 locations. Roughly, it's pretty close to the origin. So let's say the central location is somewhere here. Then the angles, asymptotes, is where the asymptote is going to converge. Okay? Asymptotes. The angles will be number of zeros minus the denominator is the same. Numerator is going to be plus minus 180 degrees. Okay? For this one, the asymptote actually is along this line. Okay? So the root locus is going to be something like this. Now, this is the first part. The second part is how many closed loop poles are there? That depends on how many branches you have. So you have 3 branches, 1, 2, 3. So 3 closed loop poles. And then what are the dominant poles in this scenario? So the dominant pole should be one that's close to 0. So this is the dominant pole. But in our homework, you have been using the second order approximation. You have been thinking about the system is behaving like a second order. So you were thinking dominant poles are on these branches. Now what's the issue here? That seems a little bit contradictory, right? In your homework, you had a problem, something, it's a little bit similar to this. And you saw the design actually worked. PID actually worked very well. Lead lag can also work. Okay? To answer this interesting question, we have to look at something a little bit more carefully. For this system, the closed loop transfer function from R to Y is GSCS, the numerator and denominator. I'm using negative feedback. So you can calculate, it's going to be this part. So I'm going to write it carefully, but you probably can see the conclusion fairly quickly. And then 1 plus. So multiply this common term in both numerator and denominator, you get Kp s plus d1, s plus d2, and then s plus p s plus 3, s plus 6. It's a little bit long, but the key to recognize is that these denominator will give you the closed loop poles. So let me indicate these closed loop poles. Suppose it's here. There will be one pole on each of the branch. Then the zeros will be negative z1, negative z2. So the red are the closed loop poles, and the closed loop zeros, I'll use this blue color. The closed loop zeros are these two. The finite closed loop zeros are these two. There will be an infinite zero at infinity. But these are the closed loop zeros as well. So the overall transfer function will be, let's call this closed loop pole location. Let's give it a name. PC1, PC2, and then this is PC2 bar, complex conjugate. So if you write it out, you can actually see it's going to be, okay? Put it in a pole zero factorization form. What we know is by design, it's by this intrinsic design that we have been talking about, to place the lag compensator, the pole and zero, to be close to each other. By this design, we are actually making these two terms to be very similar. The location of Z1 is very close to the location of PC1 from the root locus. These two, they are all stable. They are all on the left-hand side. So these two approximately can be cancelled. And then these are the closed loop poles that you designed to have the proper damping ratio, percentage overshoot, and then steady state error, etc. Right? So that is why these still are the dominant poles in this scenario. It's very subtle. You have to think about the key fact here is that it's because the zeros of the system, these zeros are actually invariant in open and closed loop, right? No matter how you design the feedback, the zeros will remain. Whatever you come up with, the open loop zeros, it will remain in the closed loop zeros. So that is why. This is still dominant poles in terms of behavior, in terms of response. Okay? Mathematically, this is still a dominant pole, but in terms of the behavior, it's just that the behavior of this is cancelled with the behavior of the zero. Okay? Now, in some of the problems you may encounter, you may be given a design goal, let's say transient response, percentage overshoot, peak time, settling time, etc. And then you do this design, you found that after you add these, it's just not quite close to the design. It's a little bit off. Now, with this understanding, you probably can think about it even more. Under what condition would this type of cancellation fail? It would fail if you designed these two, the location of Z2 and P are not close to each other, such that your red cross, this branch of closed loop poles, is not, this red cross is not close to this zero. Okay? Then you won't have perfect cancellation. You won't have this as nice cancellation over here. It will also be worse if things happen this way. Suppose this is, I'm going to move this to here to visualize it even better. So let's say this is zoom in to these. It will also fail if your cross, if your red cross is close to here instead of being close to this one, okay? Because the location of the closed loop poles will depend on your K value, so increasing gain, right? The larger your gain is, the closer you will be to this open loop zero. If your gain, after your PID tuning, suppose you look at this root locus, you want this pole, and you click on the root locus plot, it will give you a gain value. If that gain value is small, then that means your branch, your location is still close to the starting point. If that k value is very, very large, that means you will be close to your end point of that branch, right? So that's also a scenario where this cancellation will not be as nice. So that is the dominant pole consideration in this design. And over here we have this cancellation effect, pole zero cancellation effect. I want to just add a little bit more to this kind of pictures. This is stable pole zero cancellation. Both of them are on the left half plane. If it is unstable, you cannot do this. If any of these are on this side, you cannot do the cancellation over here. In that sense, you don't want to, unstable zeros are bad in that sense. All right, so I'm going to draw maybe in this way. If you have something like this, then the design will be terrible. You won't be able to do anything because the root locus is going to be looking like something like this, and then there will always be a branch that is on the right-hand side, is unstable. Okay? If you try to say, I want my lead leg to, I still want some integrator effect. I want this added pole to be close to the origin. But my zero, I try to place things around and I try to move it to here. Things will not be great either. You will always have a branch like this, and there's only this very small region of your design to keep the closed loop to be stable. So that is this placement of these zeros and poles in your design. Now, unstable zero is bad in this sense, but unstable zero is not always terrible. There are interesting effects in control engineering. Sometimes a little bit of instability can make certain things to be rather interesting. There are many of these details. I will just point you to one fact. So this root locus is saying unstable zeros are bad designs in terms of root locus. But think about this scenario. Suppose you have a transfer function. It has an unstable zero at positive 2, and then it has the stable denominator. Let's call s plus 1 square. Think about the scenario where your input is this. Your input is exponentially growing, e positive 2t. So it's growing very fast to infinity. What will the output be? Let's go from just the ODE. Look at the ODE. The ODE is, I'm going to write it out, s minus 2, s squared plus 2s plus 1. So ODE, system response, is output equals input. It's going to be this times this. So it's y double dot plus 2y dot plus y equal to input going through the numerator. And it's e2t dot, so it's d over dt, minus 2 times e2t. Okay? And it equals, so de2t is 2e2t minus 2e2t. And it equals 0, right? So this is the ODE. And if you want to solve the ODE, you need to specify some initial condition. Y0 equals to, let's say, y0. Y dot 0 equals to y0, y0 dot. Then you can solve this ODE. You can get the output response. But what you see from here is that at the steady state, y will be 0, right? The right-hand side of this ODE is entirely 0. At the steady state, if y reaches a steady state, this is 0, and that steady state value must equal to 0. So that's the output response. You have an infinite magnitude input, but in the end, your output response will be 0 at steady state. So you're still not sure. Let's go from the Laplace transform approach. So Laplace transform approach, input u of s, so y of s equals to g of s times u of s is, the Laplace transform of that one is what? right? So y of s in the end is this. And what is the inverse Laplace transform of something like this? So we know inverse, you can look it up. I'll just give you the hint. The result is exactly the same. So inverse Laplace of 1 over s plus 1, right, is e negative t, right? And then if you have a square of that, it's going to be t e negative t. Whatever it is, it's going to be 0 in the end. So that's the interesting effect. You have an unstable 0, and what it can do is, although it may be not so great here, but it can remove completely an input like this in the output. The effect of this signal, effect of this infinite magnitude signal, doesn't show up at all. It's just as if there's no infinite input going into the system. So that's some interesting effect of this unstable zeros. This kind of design, so this is very particular. If you pay attention, the reason why this works is entirely because your zero location, this 2, is the same as 2 over here. So this only works for this signal, or it can also work if it has a scalar. It's 100 times this, 1,000 times this, it doesn't matter. But it only works for this class of signals. This type of concept will be important in more advanced control designs, where you build, this is saying, you build this model in a way, a model of the input signal in a way in your system dynamics. Then you can address them very effectively. Okay? Imagine this is some type of disturbance. If you design your system this way, then the disturbance effect won't show up in the end. Pretty powerful in that sense. Okay, so I've given you more deeper thoughts into the design, as well as some interesting effects about these zeros. Let's now do the frequency response. It's both an exercise as well as a little connection to this dominant pole zero kind of analysis.